I think the IC has been spot on with their intelligence and with their predictions. And I think that the IC, by forward leaning, I've been on the intelligence committee for a dozen years, and the intelligence community usually doesn't like to share information. They want to hold it close. I think they've been beyond their comfort zone, but by leaning forward, I think they've accomplished a couple things. One, I think they've gotten rid of any probability or possibility that Putin could have defended his actions. I mean, we put out, and then the British followed up, that the Russians were going to plan a coup in Ukraine. If we hadn't put that forward, there could have been a coup that would have had the appearance of maybe being led by Ukrainians. There was going to be a video that was going to show what appeared to be Ukrainians killing Russians. We showed out that the cadavers were actually Russian bodies. This was going to be a fake video. We showed when the Russian separatist leaders last week did these call to arms, that information was actually pre-recorded. So that's out there for the intel community. And what they've done is push the Russian timeline back. They've also, I think, allowed us to build this coalition that is virtually unprecedented. A year ago, after Donald Trump, there was not much left of NATO. Even 4 months ago, all of NATO was not united. Now we have not only NATO united, but we have countries around the world, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Australia, others who are weighing in and helping bring sanctions and world opinion against Putin. That is in many ways all due to the work of the intelligence community. I wish, the one area that I wish we could have been more effective is convincing the Ukrainians themselves to further mobilize their troops, their reserves. They called up their National Guard a few days ago. President Zelensky only called out the reserves, I believe, yesterday, and that would have taken to be effective a couple of weeks. I'm not saying that would have stopped the Russian invasion. The Russian forces are so overwhelming, but it might have allowed a bit of a better fight. But in the interim, I also believe that the Ukrainian people, even if the Ukrainian military is defeated, we've seen these images. I think the Ukrainian people will launch an insurgency. And it's one thing to take over Kiev or knock out the government. It's another thing to control 40 million people who I think are now united in their, frankly, hatred for Vladimir Putin and his forces. Vladimir Putin, over the last couple of years, because of COVID, because for the most part, he's been either down in the resort city in Sochi or in his dacha outside of Moscow. He's not had that many people having direct inputs to him. So we're concerned that this kind of isolated individual who's kind of become a megalomaniac in terms of his notion of himself being the only historic figure that can rebuild old Russia or recreate the notion of the Soviet sphere. It's a dangerous character. And one of the reasons why it's so important that this does not simply become a Russia-US battle, but it is the rest of the world condemning his actions. Matter of fact, I don't hear of any leader, with maybe the exception of the former president of the United States, not totally condemning Vladimir Putin at this point. And one of the things, even with all our political consternation we have in our country, I was very proud to see President Bush and the overwhelming majority of the men and women I work with in the US Senate, Democrat and Republican, say, we stand with the people of Ukraine, we stand with NATO, and we will put harmful, painful sanctions on Russia in a united way. And I think that unity is I'm not going to make that I'm not going to make that a characterization one way or the other. I do think that his focus on this greater Russia and his speech the other night, basically dismissing the whole historical notion of Ukraine, was not a reflection of accurate history.